Hello everybody, this is IF Tubes bringing you another quick video. A quick video review of Death Stranding. I beat it a couple of days ago. I rented the game, and so I kind of had to rent it twice from a red box. And so let's get to it. First, the pros. The good thing is about the game. I only have really three things good to say about it. First, it has two great actors. Sam, one of the main characters, is called Sam Porter. He is played by Norman Reedus. And the second great actor is Clifford. One of the characters is called Clifford, and he's played by Mads Mikkelsen. So two great actors. They look exactly like they do in real life. Amazing, and the acting is pretty good, I think. And a second thing is it has great graphics. It looks amazing. I played it on the PS4, and so I can't imagine it being on a PC how great it'll be if it was released on PC. But they're gonna release it, I think, in the summer. But it looks amazing on the PS4. Um, Probably one of the most beautiful games I ever seen. It's up there with Skyrim. It's up there with like Skyrim being modded. So that's saying something. Like it's pretty darn good. Like it looks realistic. Everything looks like the mountains, the scenery, the grass. It looks amazing. Um, it has the last good thing I have to say about this game. It has interesting gameplay. It has you carrying packages from point A to point B to point C sometimes, and so the gameplay revolves around you taking packages and building pathways for yourself and for other players. And so you'll be scaling down mountains, you'll be climbing up mountains, you'll be taking a motorcycle or a truck to different points of the game. Sometimes you'll see other structures made by other players, and you can also give likes to those structures so to show them some love. And so I think that's about it. It is a probably the closest thing you can get to a UPS or FedEx simulator, if I can say that. So it's an interesting game. It's very unique. There's no other game like it in the market that I have ever seen, other than maybe the closest thing could be a truck simulator. But this game has you just going almost like the majority of the game. You will be walking to your destinations, and the walking kind of takes a while. Sometimes you can take 30 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour. You're walking for an hour. So those are the three nice things I have to say about this game. Now, there's a lot of negatives. There's more negatives than positives. So I'm gonna go down my list because I didn't want to forget anything, but I made sure to write everything down. Okay, number one, main character doesn't speak much. This was such a big blunder by Kojima. I just cannot understand why this happened. Throughout the main character Sam, played by Norman Reedus, does not say anything. The majority, when you hear him speaking, you're gonna hear him speaking in the beginning and near the end, and that's it. The majority of the game, you will not hear him speak almost nothing. His sentences will be very simplistic. Like he will not interject his ideas or anything like that. So it seems like he's like almost like a dead person. Like it made it seem like you were playing like a very hollow person, a person that wasn't really even alive. And it's so disappointing because the guy Norman Reedus is a talented actor, and it's very unfortunate that they did this to him. They should have given him more lines. Now, this didn't happen in the Metal Gear games. This started with the Phantom Pain. It started with the Phantom Pain, and at least with the Phantom Pain, the main character, will interject sometimes and give his opinion about things. So I want to say that this game really just Kojima really messed up with Sam. He should have been given way more lines, and my I don't know why like this character why Kojima really just nerfed this character. Like he doesn't interject at all. He doesn't ask questions of why he's doing what he's doing and why is he going over here. No backstory. He doesn't give any backstory about himself to other characters. All he does is listen, you know, and it's weird. Like it just there should have been more interjection with him to the other characters. And there's a fine balance. And if you want to look at the fine balance, you look at Metal Gear, the first Metal Gear, second Metal Gear, third Metal Gear, and Guns of the Patriots. Those games got it right. Like the way they made Solid Snake is that he will listen to the codex, you know, the messages, and then he will interject. He will also ask questions, and he would converse with the NPCs, and that's missing from this game. And I don't know why it's missing. I don't know if it's Kojima himself being kind of like if he doesn't like if he doesn't want the focus to be about the main character himself, which is so unfortunate because you're playing as this guy. You are controlling this guy throughout the entire games, and to see him not interject in these conversations is really so disappointing. This was probably my number one thing that bothered me in the game, but there's so much I have to cover, so I have to go to number two. But yeah, a quick thing. I have a theory. A quick theory I have. I don't think Kojima wanted Sam to be the main focal point in the game, and I don't know if it's because of his past dealings with the voice actor that the voice actor that plays Snake. I don't know if he's kind of like, you know, because Kojima's a little egomaniac a little bit, and so he doesn't want all the credit to go to other people. He wants all the credit for himself, and so maybe that could be it. And but anyway, number two, there's too much crying in this game. And you know what? I don't mind crying. I don't mind seeing it in video games. But when there's too much of it, that's a big problem. That's a really big problem. If you do something too much in your video game, the impact of that emotion loses. You lose the impact of that emotion eventually. So in the entire game, you see Sam crying, you see different characters crying, and you see him cry all the time. You see Sam crying when he connects the bridges, and I know there's a logic to it, there's a reasoning behind it, but I think there's too much, and it should be taken away from the game. There's way too much crying. It just, like I said, it loses the impact when you see it too much. You cannot abuse the crying. You gotta insert it when it's appropriate, and then you can get that big emotional response that you want from the players. So, big blunder right there. Number three, lots of backtracking. If you like backtracking, this is your game right here. I mean, you will be backtracking a lot, and it is up to the point of it being like Ghosts and Goblins type backtracking, where they send you in the beginning of the game. Where you have to go do certain objectives all over again. I don't know how else to explain it, but once you reach the end of the game, they make you do something so annoying, which is backtracking, and they kind of nerf you a little bit because something happens. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there's so much backtracking, and I know the whole point of the game is it's like a slow game, so you're supposed to kind of take in the nature, take in this world, but I think there's way too much backtracking, and there could have been um, ways to nullify, to make it more easier for a player. But I feel the way I really feel about backtracking is that it wastes time. It wastes your time that's valuable, and it just adds time to the game. It's a cheap way to add time to the game, and in my opinion, it's just something that shouldn't really exist in games. It's okay if it happens like once in a while, but not if it happens all the time. In this game, it happens all the time. It has a so-so soundtrack. That's my number 4. I really didn't like the soundtrack at all. I think the main theme is not too bad. It's pretty good theme, but it compared to the soundtracks of the Metal Gear series, it doesn't even compare to that. It's kind of like there should have been, in my opinion, a more ambient sounding soundtrack. Maybe some techno future type music. I would have loved to hear some of that. And a lot of ambient music. It would have been cool to hear some different weird noises, ambient soundtracks, and you just don't get none of that here. It just, it's a so-so soundtrack with people I never even heard of. So number 5 is the online could have been better. Yeah, the online could have been better. They should have really looked at. It's not bad. I think it's kind of cool that you can kind of build structures for other players and stuff, that other players can use your structure, and you're really never told if what you're doing is helping another player until someone likes the item that you left in the world. So I think they could have gave you a little bit more detail about helping other players. And I kind of wish that they would have looked into Dark Souls, because Dark Souls did the same exact thing, but I think Dark Souls does it a little bit better. And you can see other players in Dark Souls. You can see. I'm talking about Bloodborne. Sometimes you can see other players. You can see their deaths, and sometimes you can see their I guess you can say their shadows or whatever. I wish they would have took some concepts from that game and added it to this game. And it would have been cool to see like a PvP feature, like where someone comes and invades your world. That would have been really nice. So let's see. I'm gonna skip this one. This one's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Okay. 7 for my number 7. I had a 6, but I'm gonna skip that one to save some time. Number 7 is that this I wrote game deals too much into the abstract. I think it deals too much into the abstract, and I wish it was a little bit more grounded in reality. There's so much stuff. This is kind of like Kojima's problem. Where he didn't have in he had this problem in Metal Gear 2 a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. But this game, it deals with a lot of abstract ideas. So it's kind of weird. It's it's kind of like being in a dream or something. And I wish this game dealt a little bit. I wish it was just a little bit more grounded in reality instead of dealing with all these abstract ideas. That's about it. 8. Cutscenes repeat and are slow. Yeah, there's too many cutscenes in the game. There's too many cutscenes that repeat and are extremely slow. And there's cutscenes every time you take a drink from this energy drink. You have to watch it, and it's so slow and painful. Like it's like every single time. And there's so many cutscenes that just keep on repeating, and I wish there was like just a quick skip button, but there isn't. You have to you have to, I think, hold the options. I don't know if it's the options or a different key, but you have to hold it, and then you have to click skip cutscene. Where I think what they should have done is where if you press X or 0 or something, then it'll skip it because you pressed it. It would have been nice to have something like that. Okay, here's another one. Very little interaction with NPCs, no face to face. This game you'll be talked at. You're not gonna be talking to anybody. You will be talked at. So, and a lot of the NPCs you will encounter, they're gonna be like behind holograms and stuff. So they're inside of a structure and they're talking to you, but you're just gonna see the hologram. Very rarely would you see the NPC come out of the structure. And so, in my opinion, the world feels very dead. I mean, the NPCs don't come out at all. You don't see anybody, and which is very unfortunate. Like, it would have been nice to go to these different places and see NPCs maybe collecting. It would have been nice to see NPCs collecting, maybe taking packages, maybe taking packages to a different area. But in the game, you really just encounter enemy NPCs, and that's it. Never any friendly NPCs that are going to a different objective. So it would have been nice to see that. So it feels kind of just, you're just being talked at. You don't, like I said, this is one of the problems I had that I wrote in my list. You're just being talked at, and what makes it worse that you don't see the NPCs, you just see the hologram. So that's very unfortunate. The story wasn't that interesting. I mean, considering Kojima's past works, this one doesn't. The story in this game wasn't particularly interesting, and mainly that's because of Kojima himself. He didn't allow Norman Reedus to kind of express himself with this character enough, so it's very disappointing. So that kind of affects the story, in my opinion, when you have a main character that doesn't say anything. He's just like he might as well be like I want to say something real quick, and I just had an idea. In Half-Life, the game Half-Life 1 and 2, you have the main character Gordon Freeman, who doesn't say anything. He's just like a mute, he doesn't interject. But in that game it works because the world is so interesting, and there's so many things that are happening that you really don't even have time to talk. But anyway, he's a mute, but for some reason it doesn't bother me that he doesn't talk. And you even have characters acknowledge, at least in part 2, that he doesn't talk. So in that game it's interesting, but in this one it really suffers because you do hear Sam talk sometimes, but just not enough. And so that's very unfortunate. 11, boss fights were not that good. That's my last one that I wrote right here. Yeah, the boss fights were not that interesting. I mean, I'm sorry for I keep mentioning Metal Gear, but I have to, because this game has Metal Gear like type boss fights, but nothing compared to, say, Metal Gear 4 or Metal Gear 3 or 2 or 1. Those boss fights were so interesting and so different and very unique, and every boss fight was just completely different. Here, to me it seemed kind of lazy, like almost like Kojima didn't have any good ideas on how to present some of these boss fights. All the boss fights that you encounter are really the same. You encounter a lot of BT foes, and you really take them down the same way. You always take them down the same way. Whereas in the Metal Gear games, you will have to use different strategies to defeat some of these bosses. And so that's what made these encounters unique. There's no unique encounters in this game at all. And that's pretty much it. I'm sorry for being so negative about the game. I give it, I would say, a 5 out of 10. Like, 10 stars being my maximum. I give it 5 stars. So 5 stars is an average game, and the value I priced this game at is maybe $25 tops. That's what I feel the game is worth. Not $60, because you can get better value playing on another game. So for that kind of money, so this game should be valued at 25. It's a rent. It's really just a rent, rent for a week and just return it. So I hope to see more games from Kojima. I want to see more games, because I do think he makes interesting games, and I hope he doesn't stop. But I also want to say, though, his best work has always been Metal Gear. And unfortunately, that's like a dead franchise now. He should have the big blunder that he made, in my opinion, was that he continued to make Metal Gear games when they didn't need to they didn't need to be created anymore. So he should have stopped at number 3, and he should have not made number 4 and 5, because then they got really repetitive, and then the story got very the story pretty much, and they pretty much destroyed Big Boss as a character, in my opinion, because I wanted to see a Big Boss that was a villain. I wanted to see a villain Big Boss. I didn't want to see no sympathetic Big Boss. I wanted to see a Big Boss that descended, who was a good guy, but then descended and then went crazy. But then Metal Gear 4 came out, and that kind of ruined that character for me, and you can only blame Kojima for that. So yeah, I hope he continues to make games, because he is a great director and artist. And so that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this quick review. Not so quick, 22 minutes. But just thanks for watching, and if you feel differently, just leave me a comment. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.